The mahogany dining table that had witnessed 20 years of family dinners now bore witness to my brother Marcus's latest tirade. His face was red with manufactured outrage as he pointed his finger at my 7-year-old daughter Emma, who clutched her teddy bear tighter. "Look at her, wearing those cheap clothes to a family dinner. You can't even dress your kid properly." Marcus's voice boomed through the living room of what he thought was his luxury townhouse. "Both of you are nothing but parasites." Emma's lower lip trembled. I placed my hand protectively on her shoulder, maintaining the calm demeanor I'd perfected over the years. My parents sat at the ends of the table, my father hidden behind his newspaper while my mother methodically stirred her now cold coffee. "Marcus, she's just a child," I said quietly. "A child you can't provide for." He slammed his hand on the table, making the silverware jump. "Living in that tiny apartment, driving that 10-year-old car. While the rest of us have real jobs." My mother finally chimed in, setting down her coffee cup with a precise clink. "Investment banking, corporate law." She gestured to Marcus and his wife Victoria, who sat there in her designer dress, a smug smile playing on her lips. I checked my phone under the table. 7:58 p.m. Perfect timing. "What the hell are you even doing for work these days?" Marcus continued. "Some kind of consulting?" He made air quotes with his fingers, his Rolex catching the light. "Property management," I said softly. Victoria let out a sharp laugh. "Is that what you call being a part-time apartment building secretary?" I smiled slightly, remembering the stack of documents sitting in my briefcase. Documents that would arrive in tomorrow morning's mail, revealing that Highland Property Management, my small consulting business, had actually grown into the largest property management firm in the city over the past 5 years. The same firm that owned this luxury townhouse complex, and the office building where Marcus's law firm leased the entire 10th floor, and the shopping center where Victoria bought her designer clothes, all acquired quietly through separate holding companies while I maintained my modest appearance. "Actually," I started, but Emma tugged at my sleeve. "Mommy, can we go home, please?" Marcus wasn't finished. "Yes, run away to your little apartment, but don't come crying to us when you can't make rent. Some of us have worked hard to live in a place like this." I stood up, helping Emma gather her things. "You're right, Marcus. Some of us have worked very hard." My phone buzzed, a text from my property manager. "Documents ready for morning delivery. All 47 properties confirmed." "This is exactly why Dad left you out of the will," Marcus continued, warming to his favorite topic. "He knew you couldn't handle real responsibility. Thank God he put me in charge of the family trust." Our father finally lowered his newspaper. "Now Marcus." "No, Dad, she needs to hear this. Living off handouts, setting a terrible example for her daughter. When was the last time you even made a rent payment on time?" I helped Emma put on her coat, my movements deliberate and calm. "You know, Marcus, it's interesting you mention rent payments. What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, just that things aren't always what they seem." I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a single envelope, placing it on the table. "For instance, that family trust you're so proud of managing. You might want to check the ownership structure more carefully." Victoria reached for the envelope, but I pulled it back. "This is just a copy. The originals are being delivered tomorrow morning. To everyone." Marcus's face reddened further. "What are you talking about?" "You'll see, but here's a preview. Highland Property Management owns 47 properties in this city, including this entire complex. And your law firm's building. And that shopping center Victoria loves so much." The room went silent. Even Emma looked up, sensing the shift in power. "That's ridiculous," Marcus sputtered. "Highland is owned by me." I smiled. "Has been for 5 years. While you were busy looking down on my small consulting business, I was building an empire, right under your nose." Victoria's perfectly manicured hand flew to her throat. But our lease is up for renewal next month. As is your firm's office lease, Marcus. The new terms will be interesting." My mother's coffee cup clattered against its saucer. "You're lying. This is just another one of your. Check your mail tomorrow," I said, taking Emma's hand. "Oh, and Marcus, about being a burden." I paused at the dining room door. "You might want to review your payment history. You're 3 months behind on rent." The stunned silence followed us out into the hallway. Emma waited until we were in the elevator to speak. Mommy, does this mean Uncle Marcus lives in our building? Actually, sweetheart, he lives in your building. Everything I've built is for your future. The elevator doors opened to the lobby, where Thomas, the security guard, nodded respectfully. Good evening, Miss Parker. Everything okay? Perfect, Thomas. Could you make sure the delivery company has access tomorrow morning? There are some important documents for all the residents in Building A. Of course, ma'am, and congratulations on the merger announcement. Marcus's voice echoed down the elevator shaft. What merger? In the car, Emma clutched her teddy bear. Are we really going home to our apartment? I started the engine of my deliberately modest Honda. Actually, honey, I think it's time I showed you our real home. Remember that big house on Highland Hill you always admired? The one with the tree house. Her eyes widened. The castle house. Exactly. I've been waiting for the right moment to tell you. That's our house. I bought it 2 years ago. But why didn't we live there? I pulled out of the parking lot, catching a glimpse of Marcus's face pressed against the dining room window. Sometimes, sweetheart, it's important to let people underestimate you. It teaches you who they really are. My phone buzzed again. Another text from my property manager. Stock transfer complete. You now own controlling interest in Marcus's law firm's parent company. I smiled, thinking of the documents that would arrive tomorrow. The ownership revelations, the lease renewals, the merger announcement that would make Highland Property Management the largest real estate company in 3 states. But most importantly, the documents showing that the family trust Marcus thought he controlled had actually been purchased by one of my holding companies 2 years ago. He'd been working for me this entire time. Mommy, Emma's voice was sleepy. Are we going to tell them about the castle house? Soon, sweetheart, very soon. But first we need to prepare for a very interesting family meeting tomorrow. I think it's time for everyone to learn that being kind is more important than being rich. As we drove toward Highland Hill, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. 5 years of careful planning, building my company while letting my family think I was struggling. Watching Marcus and Victoria flaunt their wealth while treating us like burdens. Tomorrow everything would change. But tonight I had a castle to show my daughter. And somewhere in the city, a printer was humming, producing documents that would shatter my family's illusions forever. The best revenge, after all, isn't just success. It's success they never saw coming. The next morning dawned bright and clear, perfect weather for what I'd come to think of as Revelation Day. Emma was still asleep in her new princess-themed bedroom, exhausted from exploring every inch of our castle house last night. I sat in my home office, watching the security feeds from multiple properties on my monitors. 7:45 a.m. The courier service would be making deliveries soon. My phone rang. It was Marcus, right on schedule. What the hell kind of game are you playing? His voice had that familiar angry edge, but now there was something else, fear. Good morning to you too, Marcus. I trust you slept well on my property. Listen here, He stopped abruptly as his doorbell rang. I switched to that camera feed, watching him open the door to receive the thick envelope. You might want to open that, I suggested calmly. The sound of tearing paper came through the phone, followed by complete silence. Then this can't be real. Every page is real, Marcus. Fully notarized. Would you like me to walk you through it? More rustling of papers. Highland Property Management. Ownership transfer of family trust. Merger announcement. Lease agreements. His voice grew weaker with each document. Keep reading, I encouraged. You'll find the new lease terms particularly interesting. 300% increase. You can't do this. Actually, I can. Market rates, Marcus. Though I might be willing to negotiate. If you're ready to have a civilized conversation about family, respect, and the true meaning of being a burden. The doorbell camera showed Victoria appearing behind Marcus, still in her silk robe. Who is it, darling? What's that? Marcus's hands were shaking so badly he dropped several pages. She owns everything. The building, the trust, my firm's office, everything. Victoria snatched the papers, her eyes widening as she read. But that's impossible. She's nothing but a what, Victoria? I asked through the phone. A burden, a parasite. Please do finish that sentence. It'll help me decide whether to approve your lease renewal. Another call was coming in. My mother, Marcus. I need to take this. Why don't you and Victoria take some time to review those documents? Oh, and you might want to check your email. The merger announcement goes public in about I checked my watch, 20 minutes. I switched calls. Good morning, Mother. What have you done? Her voice was tight with anger and something else, disbelief. I built a business. Isn't that what you always wanted? For me to be successful. By deceiving your entire family, by stealing the trust. I didn't steal anything, Mother. I purchased it legally, through proper channels, the same way I purchased everything else. The fact that Marcus was too busy looking down on me to notice who was buying his companies is hardly my fault. A notification popped up on my screen. My father had just entered the lobby of Highland Tower, where my main office occupied the top floor. Mother, I need to go. Dad's here. We can discuss this at the family meeting tonight. You'll find the details in the packet you received. 7 p.m., Highland Tower Conference Room. Don't be late. I ended the call and turned to the wall of windows overlooking the city. 5 years of careful planning had led to this moment. Building my company piece by piece, letting my family dismiss me while I quietly bought everything they valued. My assistant's voice came through the intercom. Your father is here, Miss Parker. Send him in. The door opened, and for the first time in years, my father looked at me, really looked at me. Gone was the newspaper he usually hid behind. Gone was the passive acceptance of Marcus's behavior. How long? He asked simply. 5 years, since Emma was 2, and Marcus tried to have us evicted from our apartment. He nodded slowly, sinking into one of the leather chairs facing my desk. The trust, 2 years ago, right after Mother's birthday party, when Marcus announced he was cutting off my access because, and I quote, parasites don't deserve family money. And now, I turned one of my monitors toward him, showing a map of the city with properties highlighted in red. 47 commercial and residential properties, controlling interest in 12 companies, including Marcus's firm. The merger announcement in 15 minutes will add another 30 properties to the portfolio. My father was silent for a long moment, staring at the empire his failed daughter had built. Why maintain the pretense? He finally asked, why let them treat you and Emma that way? Because I needed to know who they really were, who you really were. I met his gaze steadily. When Marcus was cruel, when Victoria was condescending, when Mother was dismissive, you all showed me exactly who you were when you thought I had nothing. He flinched. And now? I smiled slightly. Now we find out who you are when you realize I have everything. My phone buzzed. The merger announcement was live. On cue, my father's phone began ringing. Probably Marcus, realizing that his firm was now effectively owned by his parasitic sister. Tonight's meeting, my father said, ignoring his phone. What are your terms? Simple, respect. Not just for me, but for everyone. No more looking down on people. No more treating anyone as a burden. Emma grows up in a family that values kindness over status, and if we don't agree, then Marcus loses his firm's office lease and his home. Victoria's beloved shopping center gets new tenants. The trust money gets donated to charity. I don't need any of it. I built my own empire while you were all too busy looking down on me to notice. My assistant's voice came through again. Miss Parker, your daughter is here. Send her in. Emma bounded into the office, now dressed in clothes that matched her true status, though she'd insisted on keeping her beloved teddy bear. Grandpa, she stopped short, suddenly uncertain. My father looked at his granddaughter, really looked at her perhaps for the first time. Emma, I'm sorry we made you feel less than precious. Emma glanced at me. I nodded slightly. It's okay, Grandpa, she said. Mommy says everyone deserves a second chance to be kind. My father's eyes glistened. Your mother is a wise woman, wiser than all of us. Tonight's meeting, I said softly, bring the family, we'll discuss new terms, a new way forward. He stood straightening his jacket. And Marcus, tell him his lease renewal depends on his attitude adjustment. I smiled, and remind him he's still 3 months behind on rent. After my father left, Emma climbed into my lap. Are they all coming to see our castle house? Soon, sweetheart. First they need to learn what you already know, that being kind is more important than being rich. And Uncle Marcus, Uncle Marcus is about to learn a very important lesson about calling people burdens. My phone buzzed again. Victoria, probably realizing her favorite boutique's lease was up for renewal. I held my daughter close, looking out over the city we now owned. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's success with the power to teach kindness to those who never showed it to you. The Highland Tower conference room gleamed in the evening light, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city below. I deliberately positioned myself at the head of the massive table. Emma's empty chair beside me. She was in the adjoining room with her tutor, working on homework but within easy reach if needed. 6:55 p.m. They'd be arriving soon. My property manager, Sarah, entered with a stack of folders. Everything's ready. Marcus's firm's partners are in a panic over the merger announcement. They're calling an emergency meeting for tomorrow. Good. Have security bring them up when they arrive. And Sarah, make sure the cameras are recording. Right on cue, my family began filtering in. Marcus and Victoria first, both looking significantly less polished than usual. Victoria's designer outfit was slightly askew, her perfect makeup showing signs of stress. Marcus's face was a shade of red I'd never seen before. My parents entered next, my father guiding my mother by the elbow. She'd been crying, her mascara was smudged despite obvious attempts to fix it. Please sit, I gestured to the chairs. We have a lot to discuss. Marcus remained standing. This is ridiculous. You can't just sit down. My voice was quiet but carried enough authority to make him drop into his chair. Now, let's review the events that brought us here. I opened the first folder. 5 years ago, Marcus, you tried to have me and Emma evicted from our apartment. You said, and I quote, "Burdens don't deserve a roof over their heads." I never. I pressed a button, and his voice filled the room from a recorded conversation. Burdens don't deserve a roof over their heads. Get out. Take your brat and get out. Victoria flinched. My mother covered her face. That was the day I decided to build something. Not just a business, but a lesson. I opened another folder. 2 years ago, at Mother's birthday party, you announced you were cutting off my access to the family trust. Called me a parasite. You were always asking for money. Marcus protested. Was I? I slid a document across the table. This is a record of all trust withdrawals. I never took a penny. Not one. While you. I highlighted a section. You borrowed against it 12 times. Victoria's head snapped toward her husband. You said we earned everything ourselves. He lied. I said simply, just like he lied about his firm's success. Would you like to see the real numbers, Victoria? How much of your luxury lifestyle was built on trust fund loans? Marcus slumped in his chair. My father studied his shoes. But that's not why we're here. I stood walking to the windows. We're here because tomorrow everything changes. The merger goes into full effect. Highland Properties becomes the largest real estate firm in 3 states, and you all have choices to make. Choices? My mother's voice was barely a whisper. Yes, starting with you, Marcus. Your firm's lease is up for renewal. The new rate is triple the current one. Market value. You can either accept it, or you can move out. But before you decide, I pressed another button, and the conference room screen lit up with financial records. These show how you've been embezzling from your clients. The color drained from his face. How did you? I own your firm's parent company. I've had access to everything for months. So here's your choice. Accept the new lease terms, resign your position, and start treating people with respect. Or I turn these records over to the Bar Association. Victoria started to stand. You can't. Sit down, Victoria. We haven't discussed your shopping center yet, or the fact that those credit cards you've been using, they're all backed by trust fund loans. Marcus took out loans that are now due. The room was silent except for Marcus's heavy breathing. Mother, father, you have choices too. You can continue living in your home, which I now own, but there are conditions. No more looking down on people. No more silent acceptance of cruelty. And you will start treating Emma like the precious grandchild she is. My father nodded slowly. My mother dabbed at her eyes. As for the trust, I continued, I'm dissolving it. The money will be donated to organizations that help single parents and their children, people you once called burdens. You can't do this to us, Marcus whispered. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm giving you exactly what you gave me, a chance to experience life without a safety net. The only difference is, I'm also giving you a choice about how to move forward. The door opened and Emma peeked in. Mommy, I finished my homework. Come here, sweetheart. I held out my hand, and she walked to my side, teddy bear in tow. Your uncle and aunt, grandma and grandpa have something they'd like to say to you. The silence stretched for a long moment. Finally, my father stood. Emma, we've been terrible to you and your mother. We let pride and money make us forget what family really means. Can you forgive us? Emma looked up at me. I nodded slightly. Mommy says forgiveness is free, she said, but respect has to be earned. Victoria let out a small sob. Here are the new terms, I said, passing out folders. Marcus, you'll keep your job, but under supervision. Victoria, your credit cards are cancelled, but I'm offering you a position in my company, starting at entry level. Mother, father, you can stay in your home, but you'll both volunteer at the family shelter twice a week. And if we refuse, Marcus asked, his voice hollow, then you lose everything, just like you tried to do to us. Emma tugged at my sleeve. Can we show them the castle house now? I smiled. Soon, sweetheart. First they need to sign these papers. Agreements to the new terms, including behavioral clauses. No more calling anyone burdens. No more looking down on people. No more cruelty. One by one they signed. Even Marcus, his hand shaking slightly. Now, I said, gathering the signed documents, we can discuss the future. A future where family means support, not superiority. Where success is measured by kindness, not bank accounts. The castle house, Emma reminded me. Yes, sweetheart. Tell them about our new home. As Emma excitedly described our castles to her suddenly attentive relatives, I watched their faces, the realization of what they'd lost through their cruelty, the understanding of what they could gain through kindness. Sometimes the greatest power isn't in taking everything away, it's in showing people a better way forward, even if you have to buy their entire world to teach them that lesson. 1 month later, the castle house glowed warmly in the evening light. As cars pulled up for our first real family dinner, Emma stood beside me on the front steps, wearing her favorite blue dress, teddy bear faithfully by her side. They're different now, aren't they, Mommy? She asked, watching Marcus and Victoria emerge from their significantly more modest car. The expensive one had been sold to help pay their debts. They're learning, I replied, observing how Marcus held the car door for his wife, without the usual display of superiority. Victoria walked up the steps, holding a homemade dish, rather than her usual store-bought contribution. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by something more practical, that suited her new position as a junior project manager at Highland Properties. Emma, I made your favorite mac and cheese, she said softly, the old condescension absent from her voice. And I brought something else. She pulled out a small wrapped package. It's a friendship bracelet. I made it during my lunch break. Emma accepted both offerings with a smile. Thank you, Aunt Victoria. Would you like to see my treehouse after dinner? The genuine warmth in Victoria's eyes was something I'd never seen before. I'd love that. My parents arrived next. True to their agreement, they'd spent the past month volunteering at the family shelter. The experience had changed them in unexpected ways. Mother's perfectly coiffed hair was slightly messy from playing with the shelter kids, and father carried a folder of artwork they'd made for him. The shelter children send their thanks for the new playground equipment, Mother said, hugging Emma properly for the first time. And Mr. Thompson asked if you'd consider joining the board of directors. Already done, I replied. The papers were signed yesterday. Marcus was the last to approach, humbled but healing. His supervised position at the firm had forced him to reconnect with the ideals that had originally led him to law. Yesterday he'd successfully defended a single mother pro bono, helping her keep her home. I found this, he said, holding out a worn photograph. From when we were kids, before money changed everything. The photo showed us at a park, both laughing, his arm protectively around his little sister, back when family meant something different. Keep it, I said, as a reminder. Inside, the dining room was warm and inviting, nothing like the cold formality of our previous family dinners. Emma had insisted on making place cards, decorating each one with carefully drawn hearts and stars. As we settled around the table, the conversation flowed naturally. No forced politeness or subtle digs, Victoria shared stories from her new job, discovering she actually enjoyed working for her success. Marcus talked about his pro bono case, genuine passion replacing his former arrogance. Next week, my father announced, the shelter is opening its new education center. They've asked me to teach a basic finance course. His eyes met mine. I thought maybe Highland Properties could offer some internships to the participants. Already in the works, I smiled. Along with a housing assistance program. Emma tugged at my sleeve. Can I tell them about the surprise? I nodded, and she stood on her chair excitedly. We're building a new playground at my school, and everyone's helping. Uncle Marcus is doing the legal stuff. Aunt Victoria is managing the project, and Grandma and Grandpa are getting the shelter kids to help design it. The pride on their faces wasn't about money or status this time. It was about contribution, about being part of something meaningful. After dinner, we gathered on the back terrace. The sunset painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, and Emma's laughter echoed from the treehouse, where she was showing Victoria her special reading nook. You knew, didn't you? Marcus asked quietly, joining me at the railing. That we needed this wake-up call. I knew we all needed to remember what family really means, I replied. Success isn't about what you have, it's about who you help along the way. The burdened speech, he said, wincing at the memory. I was so wrong, you were, but you're learning. Mother appeared with coffee cups, served in Emma's mismatched collection, rather than her usual fine china. The shelter director asked about expanding the program, she said. Apparently having former society peoples volunteering has encouraged more donations. Use it, I suggested. Your old connections can do a lot of good now. As night fell, Emma orchestrated a group photo in front of her beloved treehouse. Everyone gathered, no designer clothes or expensive jewelry in sight, just genuine smiles and recovering relationships. Perfect timing, Father said, checking his watch. We should head to the shelter. Story time starts in 30 minutes. They said their goodbyes, each hugging Emma properly. As the cars pulled away, my daughter leaned against me. They're really changing, she observed with a child's simple wisdom. Yes, they are, because you bought everything. No, sweetheart, because sometimes people need to lose everything to remember what really matters. Emma nodded sagely, like being kind. Exactly like being kind. As we walked back into our castle house, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. The empire I'd built hadn't just been about property and power. It had been about teaching my family that true worth isn't measured in dollars and cents. It's measured in the kindness you show, the help you give, and the love you share, even if sometimes you have to buy an entire real estate empire to teach that lesson. The end.